Hello there, you're tuned into 7Edition. I'm Azlin Energy and these are our top stories. Police promises to bring back Jolo by end of the year. 1MDB Petro-Saudi joint venture came about during Datuk Sri Najib's yacht vacation. And Trump moves to undercut Pelosi's impeachment gamble. Now, the Inspector General of Police today said police have managed to locate Lo Tek Jo, or better known as Jolo. And according to Tan Sri Abdul Hamid Badur, police are hopeful to bring back the fugitive financier by end of the year to assist in investigations into the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB scandal.
Saya sebutkan tadi nanti saya memberikan janji kan, sebab dia dah menghilangkan diri lebih beberapa tahun dah, ya. Jenayah ini berlaku, jadi kalau saya berikan timeline sebelum hujung tahun ini, tapi saya akan cuba percepatkan kalau boleh lah sebelum hujung tahun ini saya mendapatkan keputusan.
Lo faces charges in the United States and Malaysia over his alleged central role in the 1MDB scandal, along with former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak. Now, Tan Sri Abdul Hamid also believed that Lo has the protection of someone who provided him a safe haven in a certain country. Police investigations revealed that he is free to move around and able to run his businesses without any restrictions. The top cop, however, did not name the country, but confirmed that it has signed an extradition treaty with Malaysia.
In person and believing in the handshake.
Trust is the fundamental aspect to our way of life.
Work with the collaboration.
Meanwhile, Bukit Aman warned that they will no longer issue warnings against those who stoke racial sensitivities. Tan Sri Abdul Hamid said this today, stressing that the culprits will be arrested instead.
According to the IGP, the move is to give a message that the police are taking stern action. He cited a recent incident in Penang where a man who ran amok and killed his colleague was then shot dead by police. Tan Sri Abdul Hamid stated that investigations found that the suspect was heavily influenced by violent videos from the Middle East that showed Muslims being violently persecuted. He pointed out that irresponsible parties who are attempting to fan racial and religious tension have uploaded defamatory articles regarding the incident, which can trigger misunderstanding and disharmony.
So, jangan membuat rumusan apa sendiri. Perbuatan berkongsi, artikel-artikel ini dan seterusnya, membuat komen-komen tambahan akan menyebabkan orang-orang ini akan tangkap, melakukan kesalahan. So, saya ingin ingatkan lagi, tidak ada amaran lagi, tindakan terus dijalankan.
He also warned the public from making unverified comments on social media regarding the Batu Arang shootout, which saw 3 men killed and a woman missing. Tan Sri Abdul Hamid also said one of his officers had already lodged a report on the matter.
Now, over in Selangor, police said the man who was shot dead by authorities in Puchong yesterday was part of a human trafficking syndicate. Records also showed that the 37-year-old suspect had 11 previous criminal records.
State Police Chief Datuk Nur Azam Jamaluddin said the man was ferrying 8 Myanmar illegal immigrants in a Perodua Alzau car when his car was intercepted by police at about 7:30 p.m. Police were then forced to fire 2 shots in self-defense when the suspect tried to ram his car into the cops. The suspect was killed on the spot while a Myanmar national who was in the car was injured.
Pihak kami telah melaksanakan tangkapan. Dalam van tersebut terdapat 9 orang, 8 warga Myanmar dan seorang warga tempatan.
A check also showed that the vehicle was modified with the back seats taken out to accommodate the 8 illegal immigrants. The suspect's body was sent to Serdang Hospital for post-mortem.
Elsewhere, police crippled a criminal gang responsible for a string of car thefts in Pendang, Kedah, following 4 arrests made between September 18th and Sunday. State Police Chief Datuk Zainuddin Yaakob said that 3 members of the gang were caught red-handed in the midst of stealing a car at the district's train station parking lot. The gang also had cannibalized 6 cars for spare parts and sold them to a second-hand vehicle parts dealer since April. The remnants of 4 Proton Wira cars and 2 Pro2 Kancil cars that were reported stolen were recovered from various locations around the district. The suspects were called Gang 3D due to the names of 3 of the suspects, Zunaidi, Mahadi and Zaidi. All of them have been remanded until tomorrow to facilitate investigations for motor vehicle theft and disposal of stolen property. And now moving on to Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak's 1MDB trial. The High Court was told today that the joint venture project between 1MDB and Petro Saudi International Limited, PSI, came about and was discussed during the former Premier's vacation in southern France on board a yacht with Saudi Prince Turki bin Abdullah in August 2009. Former 1MDB CEO Datuk Sharul Azral Ibrahim Halmi said he only came to know of the discussion between the 2 leaders through Joe Low. He added Low had told him that the 2 leaders had agreed to form the joint venture worth $2.5 billion for investment in both countries. The witness also said Casey Tang, a senior officer of 1MDB at the time, was given the responsibility of managing the joint venture with PSI as he had no experience in corporate matters. Datuk Sharul Azral also revealed Datuk Sri Najib deliberately issued the minutes of the shareholders' meeting to protect himself from allegations of 1MDB misappropriation. He also believed the minutes of the meeting had been signed by the former Prime Minister on the advice of Low. In other news, the occupants of 3 houses in Bagan Serai, Perak were forced to evacuate their homes by authorities when a chemical tanker carrying more than 20,000 litres of acetone overturned and landed in an irrigation canal earlier today. The homes were within 100 metres of the accident scene at Kampung Parit Mentara 3. A total of 3 people were affected during the incident at about 5 a.m. There was also a small leak that allowed the chemical to flow into the canal. To prevent any untoward incident, firefighters took steps to cool the tank to reduce heat, which could spark a fire.
Berdasarkan penilaian kita juga, kita dapati bahan ini boleh menyebabkan kebakaran. Dia highly flammable. Kemudian, kita juga telah mengosongkan rumah-rumah yang berhampiran dalam jarak 100 meter mengikut panduan yang sedia ada. Selain daripada itu juga, kita juga berusaha dengan mendapatkan maklumat dari pemandu untuk mengarahkan syarikat bahan ini untuk hadir ke lokasi bagi memindahkan segera bahan ini ke dalam tangki yang sepatutnya dan dibawa keluar dengan segera. Selain daripada itu juga, kita menasihatkan masyarakat setempat untuk tidak terlalu panik dengan apa yang berlaku, tetapi bagi kerjasama kita untuk mengosongkan kawasan ini buat sementara.
The chemical company later arrived at the scene to transfer the chemical into another tanker. A total of 30 firefighters were involved in the operation. Acetone can cause a person to experience shortness of breath if trapped in a closed environment. The Consumers Association of Penang, CAP, has requested Bank Negara Malaysia, BNM, to intervene in the issue of new transaction fees by banks. According to CAP President Mohidin Abdul Kadir, some banks are also planning to impose a 50-cent charge for the use of the cheque deposit machines and RM2 for over-the-counter transactions.
In a statement, Mohideen said CAP learned that certain banks would start imposing such charges from October 1st. Mohideen also said CAP received feedback from bank customers and are awaiting response from BNM on the matter. He also claimed that those who are planning to withdraw their fixed deposits before maturity after January 1st would not earn any interest. Mohideen also requested the central bank to abolish the charges on machine usage and over-the-counter transactions. In an immediate reaction, the Association of Banks in Malaysia, ABM, said the fee is to push customers to use the online banking platform. It also pointed out that customers aged above 65 years old, as well as the disabled, are not charged the RM2 fee for over-the-counter transactions. ABM, which represents 26 commercial banks in Malaysia, said such fees may be debited from customers' credit card or financing account. The association further noted that electronic transaction is the future of banking and will also mean cost saving.
Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has criticised the United Nations and Myanmar government for their inaction in resolving the Rohingya crisis, which has displaced more than 1 million people in the country. He was speaking at a high-level side event on the Rohingya crisis, A Way Forward, held at the UN headquarters in New York.
The Prime Minister said the 75-year-old organisation has not fulfilled its purpose of preventing such man-made atrocities. And it was clear that the Myanmar government was unwilling to take any action to resolve the crisis.
For a start, the UN should play its role, taking into account that it was established in hopes of preventing future human-made miseries. Its silence is deafening. Without Security Council action, others must do their part to resolve the crisis and bring the perpetrators to justice.
Myanmar's military has been accused of murdering thousands of Rohingya in Western Rakhine State since 2017, which has resulted in the mass exodus of these Muslim minorities to neighbouring countries. This led to the world's largest refugee camp at Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. Tun Dr. Mahathir also commended the Organisation of Islamic Conference OIC's effort to bring the matter to the International Court of Justice and hopes other countries would support the body to ensure the perpetrators do not get away with the heinous crimes.
We're back with World News. Now, the U.S. Democratic Party has begun a formal impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump over allegations that he pressured a foreign power to damage a political rival. However, Trump called the efforts a witch hunt and has pledged to publish an unredacted and declassified transcript on Wednesday of a phone call with Ukraine's leader at the center of what Democrats allege is his abuse of presidential power. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced her decision for Trump's impeachment after meeting with members of her party on Tuesday. In a brief statement, Pelosi claimed that Trump sought Ukraine's help to tarnish Democratic presidential frontrunner Joe Biden ahead of the 2020 election. She described the Republican president's behavior as a betrayal of his oath of office.
This week, the president has admitted to asking the president of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections.
Trump, however, responded to this on Twitter, calling the inquiry a witch hunt garbage. Now, even if the Democratic-controlled House ultimately voted to impeach the president, it is unlikely this will lead to Trump's removal from office. An impeachment ruling would need a two-thirds majority to pass, and Republicans hold a slim majority in the Senate. However, the process could smear the president's image as he stands for re-election. Pelosi's decision followed reports that Trump pressured Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in the July 25th phone call to investigate Biden and his son Hunter, who had worked for a company drilling for gas in Ukraine. Trump admitted that he discussed Biden and his son in the call, but denied putting any pressure on the Ukrainian leader. Meanwhile, Facebook announced Tuesday, ahead of the 2020 elections, that it will not fact-check the statements politicians post on the site, even as the social network works to discredit viral misinformation meant to manipulate public opinion. Its Vice President of Global Affairs and Communications, Nick Clegg, said Facebook does not believe that it is the company's role to look into the veracity of political claims and prevent it from being subject to public scrutiny. He added that exclusion of politicians' discourse also has been part of Facebook's policy for over a year. Now, worries have run high ahead of the November 2020 polls, following revelations of a wide-ranging misinformation campaign on Facebook and other social platforms largely directed by Russian operatives in the 2016 elections. The tech giant has come under fire from critics, particularly Democrats, who believe that the company has become too powerful, while Republicans, including Trump, regularly accuse the social network of censoring conservative voices. Elsewhere, Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn, who called on Boris Johnson to resign, says the UK Prime Minister should apologise to the Queen and the British people following the Supreme Court ruling. He added that Johnson abused his powers as Prime Minister. Now, Corbyn said his priority was to prevent a no-deal exit and he would not be bounced into a general election before that is secured. In an unprecedented rebuke, UK's top judges ruled Tuesday that Johnson acted wrongly by pushing through a 5-week-long suspension of Parliament in the run-up to the October 31st deadline for leaving the European Union. He also gave Queen Elizabeth II an unlawful advice to pause legislature, an act that prevented Britain's elected politicians from carrying out their job of scrutinising his government's actions at a critical time. And now closer to home, more than 300 university students and police in Indonesia's capital were injured after clashes in a protest on Tuesday. This was sparked by the recent controversial bill on a new criminal code that would make consensual sex outside of marriage illegal and a new law that could weaken anti-corruption efforts.
Authorities said at least 265 students and 39 police officers were treated in several hospitals with their injuries ranging from minor to serious. The protests outside Parliament saw police fire tear gas and water cannons to disperse thousands of rock-throwing students. Meanwhile, students held similar protests and clashes with police in major cities nationwide, including Makassar, Bandung, Yogyakarta, Malang, Palembang and Medan. Several student groups vowed to return to the streets until the new law is revoked. Critics say the new law passed in Parliament last week reduces the authority of the Corruption Eradication Commission, a key body in fighting endemic graft in the country. The fallout from the new law, which underlines Indonesia's challenge in changing its graft-ridden image, also has strengthened the credibility of President Joko Widodo, who recently won a second term after campaigning for clean governance.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, developed and emerging economies, including Malaysia, are expected to face a cloudy global outlook moving forward. This is contributed by several factors, such as the deepening trade war, the upcoming US presidential election, and the fragmented European Union.
According to MIDF research, Malaysia, as an export-oriented economy, may experience a further slowdown, particularly on its external front. It said, based on its modelling results, the trade war which will drag Malaysia's exports growth will cause large, small and medium enterprises, SMEs, to contract by 6.4%, followed by medium and small SMEs by 5.6% and 4.9% respectively. The smallest SMEs will contract at the very least size of 3.9%. The results are in tandem with the exposure of each SME to external trade activities. Almost 70% of large SME activities are driven by the export market, whereas micro SMEs are only exposed to outbound shipments at 34.7%.
And our Bursa Malaysia ended the day lower following the lack of fresh positive catalysts, coupled with weak global economic data and continuous trade tension, which dampen investors' risk appetite. The benchmark FBM KLCI inched down 2.75 points to 1,589.58. On to stocks to watch now. George Kent Malaysia Berhad's key uncertainty has been removed following the renegotiation and restructure of LRT3 project delivery partner contract. The company also has a very healthy balance sheet with a net cash of 37 cents per share, amounting to 36% of current market capitalization. And next, SCGM Berhad's current utilization rate is steeply below the optimal level, as there was no sales growth during the first quarter despite higher extrusion capacity. Fundamentally speaking, it will be relatively tough to improve earnings without any sales growth, as the issue of rising costs will continue to persist. Last but not least, White Horse Berhad's challenging outlook is expected to be drawn out over the medium to long term, given a lack of construction and property job awards ahead, coupled with suppressed tile prices. And with no expectations for near-term earnings recovery, the stock's risk-reward profile remains in the negative territory.